If you're hearing this in your Rolls Royce, then Donald Trump's tax plan is for you.
You're rich as hell. We're going to give you a tax cut.
But for everyone else, there's Kamala Harris's plan.
Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut.
Because that guy in the Ferrari doesn't need another break. But Kamala Harris knows you sure could use one. Paid for by FFPAC, ffpac.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, I'm Alex Yee. I'm a triathlete. We'll be swimming 1.5k, short transition where we'll run up onto the Pont Alexandra, jump on our bikes, ride 40 kilometers, and then transition in the same place and run 10k. And that will be all around the centre of Paris, around some amazing landmarks like the Champs-Élysées, Arc de Triomphe. So it should be, really cool.
He's overtaken Hayden Wilde, and the young man from Lewisham is going to take the gold medal here. It's going to be an individual gold medal for Alex Yee and Team GB. He upgrades to the silver he won. Hayden Wilde will win the silver medal, and it will be a bronze medal for France.
I'm still in a bit of disbelief, to be honest. I think for me, I wanted to give myself that one last chance and not give up on, what I've worked so hard towards and what so many other people have worked with me to achieve. So, I owed it to them and to myself to just give it one last chance, and amazingly, it all worked out.
It looks like Germany, the world number one, is in the mixed team relay, are going to win this. Here comes Beth Potter. She's coming into silver, but it's going to be Germany. It's Laura Lindemann of Germany's going to win, and Beth Potter and Taylor Knibb have got to have a photo finish, I think.
Yeah, I was just trying to get to the line first, so ahead of someone.
Amazingly proud of this team, and couldn't be more prouder to be standing on that podium again. I think this team has worked so hard, and everyone behind the scenes has worked so hard for us.
Well, our triathletes, thank you very much for all the enjoyment you've given us over the past week or so. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's been quite the summer of sport, particularly in Paris for British Triathlon. That was Michael and I on TalkSport during the Olympics, and there was further British medal success at the Paralympics too. And despite the delays and concerns, all the swimming took place in the spectacular River Seine.
Yeah, I have to say it was a career high moment for me, calling Alex Yee, the young man from Lewisham, as I said at the time, Olympic champion. And I know the Paris experience was the same for John, who called the mixed relay team home to their medal. But after the highs of the Games, come the lows maybe, and the age-old question of what do we do now? What's next? For example, it was the first Olympic triathlon competition without someone called Brownlee in it. So let's find out. This is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy.
Hi, Ruth Daniels, Chief Executive of British Triathlon.
Welcome. We heard there what a spectacular summer it was for the Olympics and Paralympics for British Triathlon. Have you got your breath back?
I think only just about, actually. It's been quite incredible. And, you see the highs and the lows of sport in that environment, but so proud of what we have done as a sport.
And how important was it? We mentioned about the fact that the swimming did take place in the River Seine. And yes, there were delays and there was lots of question marks, but how important was it that it happened there?
It was really, really important. And I know there was lots of conversations around if the water quality wasn't good enough, then it would go to a duathlon. But triathlon is swim, bike and run. And it's really important that when we're on the world stage, we get the opportunity to show it in its complete sport. So it was really important for that to happen. And didn't it look amazing when it was shown?
It was amazing. It was incredible. When we talk about the water quality, did it dominate your thoughts and planning in the same way that the media seemed to get really involved in it? Because whenever I put the question to any of the athletes, they just didn't seem to mind. They seemed to be prepared for whatever. They just kept telling me, well, this is what we do. We're used to it.
Yeah, and it is the sad way of the world that actually a lot of the events that they attend, there are conversations around water quality, quite rightly, because we want our athletes to be swimming in safe environments. But there was a lot of dominant talk around the water quality in the run up to the Olympics. There was a huge investment by Paris, huge ambitions, and I think, unfortunately, the rain that preceded, and we all saw the opening ceremony, right? That it became a very dominant conversation, and it was incredibly stressful trying to manage all of that around the games. The athletes were absolutely incredible, and they took it in their stride, and that came out in the performances that they did.
I've not met a bad triathlete yet, and I can't say that about all sports. Not all sports people are as easy to deal with. What is it that you do with your triathletes that makes them all just so down to earth and approachable and dare I say, nice?
I think that's down to the individuals themselves. We provide the environment and give them the support that they need, but they are a great bunch, and their attitude and focus is absolutely incredible. Humble Alex, you saw him being interviewed post games. We've seen so many of those interviews. He really is as lovely as he comes over. And I think you were talking about how you described him. He's a lad from London, and that's such a great thing for our sport.
One more question on water quality, Ruth. What's next as an organisation that we do actually get the ability to swim in our rivers and compete in triathlons in this country?
Yeah, it's something that we feel incredibly passionate about. Me personally as well. I do it more to swimming. I want to know that it's safe where I go. Yes, we formed the Clean Water Sports Alliance earlier on this year. We've had amazing traction across the other governing bodies that we're working with, but also other ones have now come in. We're using it as a platform to give all of our sports a voice, but also the members in our community a voice as well. We have got some incredible profile. We're being nominated for various awards. And we are also using it as an opportunity to engage with the stakeholders we need to. So, for example, with government, but also with the water companies to see if we can use that influence to move things forward. Everybody who does sport in or on the water is aligned in what we want to achieve, which is more bathing quality waters for everybody to be able to use. We need it for our sport.
And that final question, you mentioned the government. We've got a brand new government, effectively, since the Olympics started. Have they been receptive to these demands?
There's been a number of very positive engagements. You will have seen a few weeks ago the launch of revised legislation to put criminal liability onto bosses of water companies. But everybody recognises, and me with my legal background, you can put laws in place, but actually it's a cultural piece that needs to be put in place. And also it's a much bigger issue.
We'll talk more about your background shortly, Ruth, but let's just focus and reflect on Paris 2024. It's a tough sport, triathlon, in that there aren't loads of medals to go around. In swimming, in athletics, lots of medals, lots of medal opportunities. But in your sport, men's event, women's event, mixed relay, and then when you get set medal ranges or targets in order to try and secure your funding, that puts pressure on, I guess.
It does, but that's what sport's about, isn't it? It's a competition. It just means that you have to be really focused around the training and the support that the athletes are given, that you've got the right athletes going forward. And, the Olympics and the Paralympics are pinnacles of the sport, but there are also other events and competitions that the athletes are competing in. I think our athletes after the Olympics, they went straight off to compete in super tri events. A number of them have been out in China, making sure that they've got more points for the World Championship. We're going out to Malaga in a few weeks' time for the final, the big World Championship in the sport. So there are lots of other competitions that they're also taking part in as well.
Yeah, when I said there's the men's, the women's and the mixed team, I was talking about Olympics specifically. There are obviously some other triathlon medals available at the Paralympics. You came into your post in this Games year. So when you arrived, was there still lots and lots that you needed to do to prepare your team for Paris, or was the plan there and it just took a little bit of the Ruth Daniels magic to bring it all to life?
I think it was as much as me trying to get my head around what on earth was going on the basis that, I was at 2012 as a spectator, but coming into a sport in an Olympic and a Paralympic year is quite a thing. Of course, the performance team were absolutely ready to go, as you would expect. And then the rest of the organisation, everybody had got plans in place. So it was a case of bringing those together, checking. And for me, really, you're going into it not knowing what to expect, but knowing that this is our moment to make sure that we give it our absolute best. The thing that was really important for me and the team was to make sure that we provided the link between the elite performance and then inspiring beyond Paris. And that, I think, is really important for a number of sports. And of course, the elite performances are key, but it's actually how those translate into inspiring the little girl and boy who sat on the sofa, or someone who's out at school, or someone who hasn't seen it before, and how they can then take that forward. And I think the team have done an absolutely brilliant job of doing that. And I think at the beginning you described sort of the highs and then the lows. I think we all feel really quite excited about what we can now do to leverage our moments that were created during the games to take that forward.
So what could we see, Ruth? I mean, as Michael said, you only joined in February this year. What could we see over the next few years ahead of LA, which at the moment feels a long time away?
It does feel a long time away, but when you start breaking it down into this year, next year, it kind of looks like it goes quite quickly. Look, for me, I've spent the last few months really making sure I've got under the bonnet of the sport and understanding where we are. There are so many positives, and I started doing triathlons about 8 years ago. And one of the amazing factors that exists within triathlon is the community and the support that exists within that environment. It's really about taking it forward into the mainstream to show that you can participate in triathlon without huge amounts of equipment and investment. Diversity is hugely important within the sport, and also sport more broadly. So ensuring that we are really representing society in both the athletes that we have coming through, but also participants in the sport as well. One of the many challenges that governing bodies have is around financial sustainability. So it's making sure that, as well as the fantastic money we get from the National Lottery and government, that we have independent revenue streams that are unrestricted, that we can choose where to invest back into the sport. We have membership revenue, and we have huge opportunities around how we can grow that. And also on the commercial side of things as well, that real partnership where organisations now want to not only be associated with success, but also social impact. For me, it's about us maintaining our relevance as an organisation, but also being able to take the sport forward in a way that enables it to grow and respect its past, but also bring in younger participants to innovate and to just really create that. This is something I absolutely have to get involved in.
Because Michael mentioned in the intro the fact that it was an Olympic Games without a Brownlee at all. I think for the first time since Beijing 2008. And British Triathlon has been synonymous with the brothers. And as you say, it's now about moving forward, but using their talents as a basis.
Absolutely. And look, we know that Alistair and Johnny have been hugely important for our sport. There are so many incredible moments that they have shown. And even coming up into the Olympics, there was still a lot of imagery of Johnny and Alistair there as well. And I think, as I say, it's really important to respect that heritage in terms of where the sport has come and what they have done for it, but also being able to move forward now as well. And, I've engaged with Johnny and Alistair. They're both really passionate about the sport and wanting to see it grow and succeed. And we also have so many fantastic athletes that are there, that were there out in Paris, but are also coming through as well. So it's really exciting. They should feel really proud about what they have achieved. And we are very lucky that we've had them involved in the sport to enable us to have the platform that we've got now.
We were very lucky on TalkSport actually to have both the Brownlees involved in our coverage. We had Johnny on the day before previewing it, and then I met Alistair on the Pont Alexander Trapp Bridge at the finish, and he understood the assignment and came over and helped with the commentary for a bit actually. Fantastic. At the end of Alex Yee's race. He's clearly still very passionate about the sport and about the events, and I want to talk about the events as someone that lives in this crossroads between the North East and North Yorkshire. So
Yeah.
Leeds and the World Series was excellent for me. Sunderland was excellent for me geographically. But how important is it perhaps to get that kind of major event back in the UK moving forward?
I think it's really important. I think we are currently reviewing our major event strategy. And I think everyone has seen out in Paris the excitement that is created around an event. And now, as that slightly more entertainment, experiential side moves into sport, bringing that joy to the streets or to different communities is absolutely key. And when we are not on the television every Saturday or every Sunday, then moments that enable people to see our sport showcased in a great way is important. You know, we can see what British Cycling are doing with their Tour of Britain, and how they're using that to create visibility, and also that in turn has enabled them to secure broadcast and also sponsorship revenue as well. But it's also, the major events are important, but also it's the events that are taking place at a grassroots level as well, and also things like national championships. And when we're one of the leading triathlon nations, for me, that means that we should be showcasing it as an event in this country.
Now, Ruth, we've known each other for a while. I'll be honest, we used to work together in the world of media at Global, which was an amazing experience. And you've got so much experience, General Counsel at Superdry as well, which is where you were just before coming to British Triathlon. How have you found coming into the sporting world? You mentioned about the fact that there is lottery funding, and then there's the money from UK Sport that they give out, but then also you need the commercial side of it, which you've got great experience in. How are you finding the world of sport?
Yeah, it has been quite eye-opening to come into it, I would say. Global, yes, I mean, a fast and furious few years when I was there, absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, I do have my reference points of where I've worked and compare the worlds of sport to that. Sport has a load of incredibly passionate people working within it. And I think there's lots to learn and to see, especially, you know, building high performing teams from the high performance side of things. But I also think there is a little bit of a disconnect sometimes with the outside world, as it were. And for me, we're a consumer business. You know, we are engaging with the great British public, and for that you've got to have a slightly different approach to how, for example, you embrace technology and how you innovate and how you keep yourselves relevant. And there was a call that I was on the other day, and someone actually articulated the history of, I suppose, UK sport and how that had resulted from when medal winning was pretty low. And there's been a real acceleration over the last 20 years. And actually, if you think about that and the evolution, then your organizational structure has to adapt to keep up with that. There are lots of different stakeholders. And as you say, you've got that public tension with the government funding versus needing to become more commercial. But then sometimes that public element restrains what you can do sort of commercially. And also the skill set that's needed for transformation and digitization, everything can be a little bit different to maybe what's been in the sports sector before. But for me, this is about making sure that we are outwardly facing, we are engaging with all relevant stakeholders, and we look for best practice to lots of different places. That some of it might be in sport, but some of it might be outside of sport as well.
And I know also you've been a huge supporter of women in sport as well throughout your working career. And triathlon, I've always said, is so equal. Well, it feels that way from the outside.
Yeah, sport is hugely important for society in general. I really do genuinely believe it has the opportunity to change lives for the better. I have seen throughout my career, you know, the different attitudes towards women within the work environment, but also that starts really early in the school environment, but also on the sports field as well. And there's been lots of work done and research that shows that if girls and women are involved in sport, that helps them more broadly in their careers and in their ability to build confidence and to progress. So hugely important. And yes, one of the things that have attracted me to triathlon is the fact that it's a sport that started off with real gender equality. And there are very few sports that actually can say that. And from an athlete perspective, the participation is done on the same basis, it's the same prize money, and it's the same length of event that happens. And I think the mixed relay is a great example of showing that piece as well. And wasn't it great to see that this year they changed to the order of the competition so that the women crossed the line. Really, really important. There is still work to be done on the coaching side. And when I've been to events, especially where it's been more commercial events, there is very much still a dominance of men on the commercial side of sport. So I'd love to see more women coming through on that side.
When we talk about women in sport, and I presume as chief executives, MDs of the NGBs, at some point UK sport get you all together in a room. What an insurance nightmare that must be for elite sport in this country. But with UK sport, you've got a female chair, you've got a female chief executive. But when you look around the room, do you think we're moving in the right direction? Do you think this is as good as it can be? Do you think this needs a lot of work? What's your view?
I was looking at some stats the other day, actually, and I think there's 37 NGBs, of which 9 are women. And if you look on the chair side, then it's a much, much smaller number. So I think compared to where things were, there's definite progress, and having 2 women leading UK sport inevitably is going to be helpful. But I think as well as gender, diversity goes beyond that. And I would say that there needs to be more representation, both in the room, but also within organisations across sport and leadership teams, where there's a genuine voice to bring diversity of thought to decisions and discussions that need to take place.
What sort of person do you think is listening to this podcast at the moment that might be the next Ruth Daniels or the next Sally Monday or whatever? What qualities would they need?
I tell you that the number of lawyers I had contact me after I got the job to say, how did you get that? How did you move into sport? And how did you become CEO? I think a lot of people set their own limitations. And I think I've always believed you can do anything you want to if you put your mind to it. And I would say if you really want to move into sport and you want to have a position that you can influence and lead in this arena, then you should absolutely go for it. For me, I've got this great saying, persistence beats resistance. And it was quite difficult for me to move into sport because there was you're from out of sector, you've not worked in sport for 25 years. You're a lawyer, and that sort of pigeonholes you into a certain number of boxes. So for me, the ability to understand the environment, to show the value that you bring and to be able to articulate that, but also to network, that is hugely, hugely important. And as I say, just keep bashing on the door and eventually there's a little crack that appears that you can stick your foot in.
Final question. When you look back at 2024, what happened at the Paralympics and the Olympic Games, has it lived up to expectations? Has the year gone as you would have hoped, maybe dreamed about?
I think it's gone much better. I mean, if I'm honest, I probably had no expectations because I didn't know what to expect at the Olympics, but I was lucky enough to watch the racing with the British ambassador, Menna, when I was out there, having everyone else not being able to attend the event. And there was lots of screaming, lots of crying when both Alex and Beth crossed the line. And for me, when I've been watching the replays of his race and the other races, to have triathlon showcased in the way that it was and to create moments for triathlon has been incredible. But actually to have created moments of the games, which I think is even bigger, is even better. So very, very, very proud of everybody and very excited about the future.
Lots of screaming, lots of crying. I think Ruth must have been sat next to our commentary positions, John, because that's exactly how we reacted, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Ruth Daniels, CEO of British Triathlon, thank you so much for joining Anything But Footy and Great British Bosses.
Thank you very much for having me.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.